In this video tutorial, we will be demonstrating setting up a simple plate layout for engraving on a rotary mechanical engraver in Gravostyle 9. We will demonstrate how to set up the overall plate dimensions and margin values and simple text editing on the plate layout. To start, in Gravostyle 9, you'll see plate dimensions in the top section of the material and machining definitions window that pops up automatically when you first open the software. The number values that you see by default are determined by the machine model that you have loaded into Gravostyle. In this particular video, I have our M20, our small mechanical engraver, set up as the default machine. Which gives roughly a 4" by 4" engraving area. So in this video tutorial, we'll be setting up a simple plate layout for a name badge, which is a pretty typical application for this style model engraver. So the first thing we have to do is we have to put in the dimensions of the actual name badge that we're working with. In this case, we're actually going to engrave a 3" by 3/4" tall plate. So I put those dimensions in, and then I come down to my margin values. You'll see automatic margins is selected by default, and that will take 10% of the value of the plate dimensions and apply it to the margin values. In this case, I want to decrease that margin value to give me more engravable space on the actual badge. So I'm going to select the second option here, and that is identical margins according to the left margin. So whatever value I set up for my left margin here, it will make the right, top, and bottom the same. So I'm going to change this to 0.1. We'll just leave it at 0.1. And at this point, I could hit check to OK this, and it will draw it out on the screen. If you needed to, for some reason, if your particular badge had a logo on the left side, then you could uncheck both of these boxes, and you could come in and edit each one of these individually. So I could make the left margin, say, 1". So it would accommodate the logo that's already on the badge. In this case, I'm just working with a blank badge, so I'm going to leave it at 0.1" all the way around. Alright, now I can click on the second tab here on the material machinings window, and I can set up the machine that I'm going to output to. If you have more than one machine set up on the PC. And I can also set up the orientation. Most of the time, the orientation is going to be like you see here, left to right. But in some cases, you may have to rotate a piece 90 degrees to hold it in the vise better. In that case, you can, use one of the appropriate icons here to rotate the job 90 degrees. So I'm going to put that back to normal. And then you've got your origin setting. The M20 uses a vise, and the vise is typically the center of the vise is what you go off of for the origin setting. So we're going to leave that as is right now. And then you'll see down here we're doing flat engraving, we're not doing cylindrical engraving. Alright, so now when I hit check, that will produce the 3 by 3/4" tall plate that I programmed in, and you'll see I have a 0.1 margin. So the dotted line represents the margin value I programmed in, and the solid black line is the actual badge itself. Now at this point, I'm ready to basically enter in the text that I want on the badge. But first, if you look up here, we have our text toolbar. Alright, so you've got your font style here, which is a drop down, and you'll notice there are basically 3 different folders to work off of here. The Gravotech fonts folder has all the fonts that Gravotech provides. You can purchase these with the software. There are different packs. Font Pack 0 comes standard with the software, but there are 4 other packs that you can choose to purchase, and each one of those packs has a different set of fonts in it, and you can request a catalog to view those to see if a font pack might work for you. Typically, Gravotech fonts are where you find the more decorative script type fonts, the multi-line fonts that you see engraved with a rotary engraver. With that said, there are also true type fonts. True type fonts are the fonts that are already loaded onto the PC. Any Windows or standard computer has these type of fonts in them. The true type fonts, or the .ttf file extension fonts that are loaded, will show up and be usable in Gravostyle. The caveat with using a true type font in Gravostyle in rotary mode for a mechanical engraver is that the engraver is only going to engrave the outline of the letter by default. There is a higher level of our software that you can purchase called Discovery Max that allows you to do what we call a 2D fill, where you can actually go in and tell the software to generate toolpaths inside that text to actually clean out the whole letter and not just do the outline. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to engrave true type fonts with a mechanical engraver. In this example, we'll stick with the Gravotech font folder, and I'll just select let's go with a 4-line Franklin here. Alright, so I've selected my font, and then the font style or height, character height, is located here, and this is an inch value right now. That's the default setting. You can change that unit setting in the options of the software if you'd like by hitting F10, and there are several other defaults that you can change in there as well. So I'm going to drop this down. Remember, our tag or name badge height is only 3/4 of an inch, and we've got a 0.1 inch margin all the way around. So let's change this to, let's drop it down to 1/4 inch, and then we can type in a name here. So we've got John Doe. Alright, now so if we were good with this, we could go ahead and send this to the engraver, but let's say we wanted a second line on this badge, so I can hit enter to do so, and that will generate another line down below. In this case, I want to go ahead and drop down the font size to make it smaller, so we'll say 0.185. Okay, and we'll say he is the president. Okay. Now, at this point, if I wanted to change something, just like a word processor, I would have to click and highlight that if I want to change it. Whether it be font size, font style, adding an underline, whatever the case is, you got to highlight what you want to change. So in this case, let's say I want to change to a different font. So I'll go down to, let's see here. Let's just make this one a single line font. Okay. Alright, so now let's say we wanted to send this to the engraver. Alright, so I would go to the main toolbar across here, which you'll see a picture of the spindle, and that's the machining icon. Alright, so when I click on that, that will bring up the machining screen. and you'll see I have the M20 model machine selected. The vise was the machine center, or center of the vise was selected as the origin, so I'm going to position my name badge right in the center of my jigs clamped in the vise. Alright. If I'm going to be engraving this with a diamond cutter, I can select the diamond drag option for the Auto Z. That will tell the machine to Auto Z or find the surface of the badge before it starts engraving automatically, so it makes it nice and simple. This value right here I usually set a little higher, anywhere from 0.12 to 0.15, and this controls how much it lifts up in between each letter and line, or stroke in each letter, so we're not dragging in between. And then we have our speed settings, our X and Y speed settings here. We can put that on medium or fast. The Z-axis is the speed of which the cutter is moving up and down, in and out of the material. So with a diamond on, say, a brass or nickel-plated metal tag, we can go ahead and run these at full speed. If we're using a rotating diamond, we would use the spindle motor. If we were using a drag diamond, we would X this out so the motor does not spin, or the cutter doesn't spin. And then we could actually hit run to send the file to the machine. And that's pretty simple run through on how to set up a name badge and send it to the engraver. You can hit preview on this screen to give you a bird's eye look of the actual engraving area on the machine. It actually, if you zoom in, you can actually see the dots where the cutter is actually going to start that particular line. Alright, so if everything looks good there and you're good to go, you can run the file. And I hope this video tutorial was helpful.